There you go. Um, I wanted to come on after this morning's live show, this podcast that we did, that where we talked about and showed the footage of what happened in the New Zealand Parliament yesterday. And while it wasn't a political message at all, and I said it multiple times, quite a few people from New Zealand chimed in and were quite angry with me. And I respect that everyone can express themselves. But I wanted to come on and address that. I said clearly during the live show, it had nothing to do with politics. If this had happened anywhere else in the world, we would have shared it. If this had been a right or left, or it wasn't political at all. What I saw was spirit in action. And I will explain what I mean by that. And I want to invite everyone just to listen for a moment. Our friends in New Zealand, our friends all over the world, we don't have much time left, my friends. For centuries and millennia, we have been pitted against each other, all of us. Even the building of the nations, the way they were built, was a pitting against each other, was a building of boxes and belief systems, of left and right, of religions, of different cultures, arts, belief systems. I mean, there is so many boxes. And what we are realizing, maybe as a community worldwide, including here in the United States, is that all of us, in one way, shape, or form, have at some point fallen for the division, fallen for the idea that it is human nature to keep fighting each other, to keep fighting over different perceptions and ideas. And we are now at this point, and I will bring up another controversial figure for those who've really studied this deeply. For example, President Ronald Reagan is, for most people in the United States and abroad, he is considered a revered figure. He's considered to be one of the great presidents. And there's an entirely different side to the guy that most people don't know of. But I will nonetheless, without showing any support, I will quote him or paraphrase when he said that he sometimes thinks about what would happen to all human divisions and our fights amongst each other if we were confronted with a common threat. And this is nothing new. It is well known that at war, my enemy's enemy becomes my friend. What is ironic is that for the time of war, enemies that have a common enemy can unite. And as soon as that common enemy is defeated, they're enemies again. We have a common enemy. And I don't mean we in this nation, the left or the right. I don't mean Christians and Muslims. I don't mean Jews and Hindus and Muslims. And I don't mean the different populations. The human family has a common enemy all over the world. It is a form of inverted consciousness that seeks to lead us into the ultimate enslavement. And we're this close because this is the irreversible enslavement, because it makes us lose what allows us to be spiritual beings. It makes us lose that. And so what I witnessed in that young woman, regardless of what her political affiliation is, because as you rightly stated, I'm not intrinsically familiar with the ins and outs of domestic politics in New Zealand, nor have I claimed to be. What I have witnessed was simply the spirit moving through a woman, and people say, have different opinions in that. That's what I saw. Guess what? You're in our channel. So I can only talk about what I saw, what moved me. I didn't say, I specifically said I wasn't talking about political alignment. What was most impressive to me, for example, when studying a lot of the native clans, a lot of the Indian clans here in America, was how often And at what stage of the great conflict between the settlers and the uh, the indigenous people here, which for all intents and purposes probably weren't the original people either. There was some people before them, right? But at any rate, what was always impressive to me was that at every stage of the conflict and of the war, there was someone, some elder, some chief, or some clan mother that was willing to initiate conversations with the enemy, that was willing to reach beyond the great divide and talk and share. And it was the Iroquois nations and the leaders of the Iroquois nations, the Six Nations, the leaders of the Six Nations Confederacy, who uh, who were in council, who were sitting with what then became the founding fathers for long periods of time to teach them about their Confederacy Constitution and inspired them to found a similar nation with similar principles. And they had been enemies, they had been at war, they had been fighting, and still they came together. Now we are as divided as we've ever been in every nation. Look at America, look at maybe your country if that's New Zealand, look at all the other countries. We're so divided. And we are getting nowhere with that division. And I understand that some of these fault lines seem to be way too big to overcome. And like always, just like individually, the same applies collectively. What I have heard, and what, for example, Christina's heard a million times when she was counseling people, if you only knew my story, then you would see that what you're telling me does not apply to me. And so the same goes for collectively for peoples and nations. They will say, Jean, if you only understood the history of my nation, we can't with these people. We can't ever find common ground. We cannot. Guess what? It is the same in this nation. It's the same in every nation. It's always the same story. Who is perpetuating that story and whom does it benefit? Not you, not me, not the human spirit. It doesn't benefit us. It benefits a very tiny, small elite who knows exactly how to do that. That's what they've been doing. So when I use something like today's clip of this young woman, it wasn't at all a support for any political or ideological way. I simply said, look at the spirit in that woman. Look at that young 22 years old. 22 years, come on. Look at the spirit. That's all that I said. And then I proceeded to talk about the qualities of spiritual warriors, of unity, of coming together, of overcoming all these divides. And we need to, friends. We have very little time left. The revolution that is unfolding is ending us. That is the revolution. That is the focal point of this revolution. And it is everywhere. It is in the left, it is in the right. It's in the conservative, it's in the left wing and the right wing, it's everywhere. It's the technocratic revolution of ending who we are. Not changing. Not just changing, that's the first step of ending who we are. And guess what? If we want to stand a chance, then all people all over the world have to find a way to reach beyond the great divide and find common ground. To sit down with those that they fiercely oppose, to talk to those who don't seem to be able to see eye to eye, and figure out how much we have in common over how much divides us. There's no other way. There's no other way here too. Do you think that most of the people that have been watching the insanity that's been unfolding, for example, in America over the last 4 years and longer, of course, it's just been on display. Well, it would be easy to say we're never going to talk to these people. It would be easy to say, hey, my neighbor, two houses down, he was one of those people, or she was one of those people who said everybody who doesn't get a freaking should be, locked up. Yeah, well, they're starting to figure out just how wrong they were about that. They're starting to figure out that they made mistakes. Guess what? We also have to figure out, all of us, we made mistakes too. We were wrong on things too. We are human. We're prone to error. But understanding that there's much more that unites us than what divides us. So this was, and I'm saying this directly to our friends from New Zealand, in no way, shape, or form a political um, endorsement. And I said this multiple times. I was just talking about the spirit in a young person. Her actions might or might not be very misguided. I don't know that. But the spirit in that footage was palpable and it was contagious. And nobody who saw that, at least in our broadcast, came to any political conclusions. It was solely a spiritual conversation. Now, we are all called in all nations of the world to do that, to come together. Because I'm telling you, if we want to stand a chance against a force that is non-human and that wants to end us, we'll have to come together. And we will have to unite with those whom we fiercely oppose and who saw or still see things vastly different. And if we talk, and if we share, and maybe if we're quiet together too, sometimes we pray together, we meditate together, we go into ceremony, right? We go into ceremony and we share in spirit. Maybe we can overcome this because this is the age-old story. And the final battle is here. And the final battle will require of us to come together or we don't stand a chance. Now that's the message. That's the spiritual warrior. That's the true warrior. And so I'll gladly say that this display of spirit moving through a person inspired me. That's all. And if we can come together in that spirit and talk and share and find common ground, then we do have a chance. That's what we've been attempting to do. And as much as it is easy to stay in our boxes and in our echo chambers and consider that we're always right and they're always wrong, that's easy. We have to find a new way of looking at things, a better way of looking at things. So I'm sending much love to everybody. It is not my intention to come on here and try not to offend anyone, by the way, because that's impossible. Someone will always be offended by something. I can tell you that love is moving through my heart, and it is my love for the human spirit and my love for creation itself that makes me do that and makes us do that and keeps this work going every day. We will offend people in the process. Well, so be it. But not because we want to. It's simply because we're all an individual expression of spirit. And only if we give ourselves permission to live that and see that without the claim that our way is the only right way and our perspective is the only right perspective, a lot can happen. A lot must happen. We're talking about at the very most until the end of the decade, my friends. We don't have much time left. So let's come together. Let's help each other see things. Let's help each other see a bigger picture. And let's unite. Much love to all. Many blessings. And we'll be back with you again very, very soon.